Hello. So I wanted to cover a couple of effects that I've made. This is one of them. GLSL effect. So Control N after clicking on the part of the network that you want to open the network. And so I have a simple feedback system here. And then the GLSL top, which is where most of the work is being done. If you click on GLSL pixel and edit, it'll allow you to edit the file. I've got this very simple feedback system, which will up. But you can see it right here. Basically, like a few of the things that I did was set up uniforms using this format. So render size is what I've used for high resolution, which is the resolution. And then yeah, so these are like different controls for the scenes. For example, zoom. Feedback. But after you add the values in the code, you'll need to add them in the vectors tab as well. So I went through and on each of these, added a new value. And also another thing, it won't open VS Code by default. That is something that you can choose in the settings of an AAVJ. In this case, then it would be in preferences, I want to say. Let me double check. Yeah, so text it. And you can choose whatever program you want. I use VS Code as of now. So, what I've done is also set up parameters, AAVJ, like right here, by linking them to these values in the code. Through this network right here, on a constant, which I link. Well, I have another video on how to set up parameters of AAVJ, so I won't cover this for too long. But that's on YouTube, and you can find it there. Yeah, so that is pretty much this effect in a nutshell. Basically, what it's doing is taking the input texture, which you have to use this format recalling the texture, which is a little bit odd. It's like TouchDesigner's native uniform for it. In Synesthesia, you can like call the pad or like input media. You can recall input media like in a different way. And it has some weird way of doing it as well. This is how TouchDesigner does it. And then there's the render size value that we set up for resolution, X, Y. It's basically like you have floats, which are single values that can have a decimal point like this. Vec2s are two of those values stored in one. So like render size on here has two of the four values, so it doesn't matter what you put here if it's a vec2. Vec2s will have two values, which are these. Vec3s will have the third value filled. Vec4 will have the fourth. For example, like when running it purely in the code, this is a vec4. And this is a vec3. So, hashtag define will define a value. And looks like you don't need to have the semicolon at the end, whereas most of the lines otherwise you need a semicolon at the end, otherwise you'll have a formatting error. Yeah. So basically what this is doing is taking the pixels and taking the blue of the pixels and pushing it in one direction, the greens and pushing them in another direction, the reds and pushing them in another direction, and then Qmod is basically like rotating out those values and like changing like whether they're red, green, or blue. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things about like porting this over to TouchDesigner that I found. One, I noticed that it didn't really work at first, like just using the GLSL top and like linking the video through it. What I had to do is link it to a feedback node. So I'm not sure what it is. If anyone knows, let me know. But basically, like, for example, I wanted this to be a little bit different of a system. At first I had this com linked to the feedback. How does this work? But it definitely looks a lot different than when I bring the GLSL in. It does more of like the effects that it would do in Shader Toy or in Synesthesia. And then I just comp it back in a couple different ways. Composites are very fun to mess with in TouchDesigner. You can do like you can like darken it, which it's helpful to darken some that's otherwise very light. So yeah, you can just keep calling back into each other with as many layers as you want, and it doesn't take too much processing power, so I highly recommend messing around with that. Yeah, so that is about this effect broken down. Time is at time, it's about seconds. but you can also link it to like audio reactive time, which I have another tutorial on YouTube which shows how I set up like these time values based on the lows, mids, and highs. But yeah, enjoy. I'll link the effects below, ready to be dropped into AAVJ. And if you have any questions, let me know. Cheers.